to episode 215 of the All the Books Show, recorded at the David A. Howe Public Library. We talk book news, author news, and literary news. I'm Eric Michaels.
I'm Nick Gunning. That was a weird start to this episode.
Why?
Well, before they heard
gosh.
it, there was just multiple attempts to get it right, and then you still seemed like you couldn't remember how to say 215. So you did that.
The 200s are going to be rough.
I know.
We have 85 more of these episodes to do
It
in this
throws
thing.
you.
Yeah,
It
I
throws
just
you
want to
every
say
time.
20.
I choose to find it charming.
I want to say 2015.
Anyway, as Eric said, we do talk book news, author news, and literary news. Today, we're talking to an author. We're talking to Sarah Prineas, author of Dragonfell. Now, if you remember a few episodes back in episode 211, titled You Sexy New Books You, where we, it's a pretty good title.
Thank you.
Where we pick books from the new book collection and talk about them a little bit. Eric landed on Dragonfell, and I had an attitude about it because I don't read a lot of fantasy, but I was really digging what he was reading, and so we read it together. And then sat down and chatted with Sarah Prineas about it. So you can find that a little later in the episode. So thank you in advance to Sarah, our guest today. What have you been up to, my friend? Shall we open up the old books, see where the bookmarks are?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, sorry, I'm tired.
Is that what counts for banter?
No, I'm tired.
Why don't I go first? Will that take a little pressure off you?
Okay.
Okay. Let me just get this first one out of the way because I've got a real attitude about it. Okay, and that is The Warning by James Patterson and Robison Wells. Okay?
Robinson.
Is it Robinson?
Isn't it?
I don't think so.
Did you say Roybison?
I said Robison. I think it's just Robison.
Look, you can spell it all you want.
Okay. You're just picking a weird battlefield to die on. Anyway, now you told me last week when I mentioned this author that's a YA author.
Yeah.
And
we
he's
have a lot of his YA books.
What has he written?
Like Variant.
Okay.
And other books like
Okay.
that. Maybe Blackout, I think, is one of the titles.
All right. Well, here's the thing. With these James Patterson present, and it's not a James Patterson present, sorry. These James Patterson co-authored books.
Mm-hmm.
So I've read like NYPD Red. I've read a couple other of these ones that have a co-author. And what I'm always impressed by is how they do tend to retain a little bit of the feeling of like the Alex Crosses or, sort of the classic, if you want to say that, James Patterson canon there. This one,
The classic James Canon.
well, the really short chapters, just
Right.
the way they're written structurally, even the ones with co-authors tend to follow that pattern, which works really well and encourages you to read more and more and more because the chapters are brief. And anyway,
Right.
usually it still feels like a James Patterson-esque novel. This one, for better or worse, did not feel like it at all. I am 100% convinced that this was written for the YA market and they changed their mind for some reason.
Sure.
Because it is such a YA novel. You've got your two like teen protagonists, and it alternates between his view and her view, basically navigating a world in a post like Chernobyl-esque disaster. Okay, it gets sci-fi. It gets very different from what you'd expect from a James Patterson. So
right. Starts to sound like a Robinson Wells book.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so if it was marketed in that way, that'd be one thing. But
it's
picking
for
this up,
adults.
expecting a James Patterson
Right.
book, you usually know what you're going to get.
First time
with
in
one
print,
of those.
though.
It is, I know. And that's another thing. It didn't come out in hardcover. It came out in the oversized, like chunky paperback. At least in the U.S., that's how it came. So I'm very confused by this, but I feel like it must just be sort of a behind-the-scenes kind of thing.
Right.
So I didn't enjoy it, in part because it wasn't what I was expecting, but I also just thought it was kind of bad.
Ooh.
And it was just riddled with the weirdest pop culture references of any book that I've ever read. Like it was all over the place.
Right.
It was like they were talking about how Minority Report, the film, is like underappreciated in Spielberg's canon at one point. I know. I'm just like, Minority Report?
Is it?
It's like 20 years old. These kids are like 16. And then they were
Man,
talking
I don't even
about,
think it's underrated.
I know. And they talked about AI also being underrated. But they were talking about, he was calling her the Bionic Woman, which, I mean, I love retro TV, and I've not seen the Bionic Woman, okay? One point, he's sort of like flirting with her, like he's going to kiss her or something, and he does his best Sean Connery voice. Like, where are they seeing Sean Connery in?
What?
It's very confusing.
Huh.
That's what I'm saying. It was like there was no through line of where these pop culture references were coming from, other than the fact that they are dated.
Chris tried to play it cool like Brandon Lee in The Crow.
You're right. That's exactly what it was like. So this was bad.
But I told him, where's the map from Doors the Explorer?
Yeah. That would not be too off.
You're in the Twilight Zone!
When I was looking at the Goodreads reviews on this, it seemed like it's kind of a consensus that everybody's like, wait, what? This is YA sci-fi.
Yeah.
Why is this, so it's very, very confusing.
I do not think Minority Report is underappreciated, and I'm having a hard time getting past that one comment that you shared.
Oh, really? Oh, no,
Yeah.
I could see that.
Minority Report by Spielberg?
I don't think people care about Minority Report. I don't think it's held up as like, oh, you got to see Minority Report. I love it.
I think it's known to be one of his
Really?
best ones. Yeah.
What year did that come out?
2002.
Okay, so like I was fresh out of high school.
2001.
Okay, I was right around the end of my high school. I think I was
Okay.
out of high school by the time this came out. And it's like, I mean, I loved it, but I just don't know if like the average Joe Schmo will be like, Minority Report, sure.
I don't know.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
I'm going to be bothered by that.
You know
all
what?
day.
You know what? Twitter poll, everyone. This is going to be a Twitter poll.
Oh, don't
See,
ask
I'm
the
gonna
general
ask-
public
I'm gonna
if a
ask the
movie's
general
underappreciated
public.
or
I'm
not.
going to ask them their feelings on Minority Report. So that's all a long-winded review to say that if you're a fan of Robinson Wells, or if you're a fan of young adult,
This doesn't
Sci-fi?
sound like I would be.
then maybe you'll like it.
Yeah.
If you are a fan of James Patterson and looking for that type of book,
Mm-hmm.
look elsewhere, my friend.
Right.
So that was the main novel that I read this week. So sorry about that.
Okay.
I also read a book to my son. This is a junior Batman novel called Catwoman's Halloween Heist.
Yeah.
So I mentioned this because we have this whole series in the junior series section right here at the David A. Howe Public Library. We have these on Batman, Superman, and do we have a Wonder Woman run?
Wonder Woman, Flash,
Wonder Woman, Flash.
Green Lantern,
Okay.
Justice League.
So it's fun. It's fun. It's a good mix of story and pictures, and then there's a lot of there's word art throughout.
Yeah.
So it's visually entertaining. This one was Halloween themed. It was a Batgirl Robin team up. So we had a lot of fun. So if you're looking for a book for the 8 to 12-year-old crew, this was decent.
I appreciate it because it still uses the DC animated series.
It does.
Artwork from
From the later years.
Yeah,
it
the
was
New
like
Adventures.
The Tim Drake Robin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I read that, and then I read a bunch of graphic novels. I will mention Wonder Woman: Gods of Gotham. This is where, yeah.
Is this with Maxie Zeus? Is he in it?
Maxie Zeus?
Is this where Gotham becomes like all ancient Greek?
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
maybe Maxie Zeus is in it. Like the
Yeah.
villains each become, like Joker becomes Medusa, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. Okay.
I read this.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't say I didn't particularly enjoy it. I typically don't like the ones that get really deep into the Wonder Woman mythos. There's some cool Batman Wonder Woman scenes, but I could take it or leave it. You liked it though?
Yeah, I did.
Big fan? Okay.
I wasn't gonna say big fan.
I read, as longtime listeners will know, I've been in a bit of a Green Lantern kick, and I read both volumes of Larfleeze. Larfleeze is the Orange Lantern, whose whole thing is that he wields the light of avarice. He's very greedy.
Yeah.
So this was actually a lot of fun. It looks cool. Like it's a cool looking book. The art
Right.
really works. It suits it well. You'd think it would get old, Larfleeze being unpleasant, but it actually works pretty well.
Looking like Alf.
Looking like Elf, and the characters around him made this pretty fun. So
All
I
right.
like this quite a bit, and we're going to be talking to the author of this in a couple of weeks, J.M. DeMatteis. So look out for that. I'm currently reading Hellblazer, Volume 1. I've never read a John Constantine book before.
Okay.
I've read him in some Justice League Dark,
Right.
but I've never read just a solo book. So I just started this. The reviews are not kind, so I don't know if I'll like it or not, but so far I do like it. This was when we first started getting graphic novels here. This was before you even came. I ordered a few graphic novels, and one of them was the Constantine New 52 series.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't keep it on the shelf.
No.
So we got that whole series, and it remained super popular throughout its run. So this is in the Rebirth era. So I'll tell you what I think.
Okay.
Seems like it ties in well with Halloween.
All right.
Kind of a spooky book.
Yeah. I played Pac-Man yesterday, and I was like, Ghost.
Ghosts because
It's
of Halloween.
Halloween, yeah.
Absolutely. Eric's having a little trouble with the Halloween spirit this year.
I don't want to get into it.
Do you want a hug?
No.
What if I just put my hand on your
Hugs
shoulder?
have never helped me with the Halloween spirit.
Well-
Candy, spooky music,
Do you want a bob for apples?
and fake spider webs around the house.
fake spider webs. Do you have
Yeah.
any fake spider webs
No,
around
I
your
got
house?
some real ones.
Oh,
Yeah. It's pretty
yeah.
scary.
Truth talk.
But you know what? I'd rather have that one daddy long legs that's just hanging out in the corner of my side room than like 5 flies.
I agree.
So
I agree. Finally, I'm reading Starship Trap by Mel Gilden. So this is I have a not library related, but off the grid book club that I do with some friends, and we alternate between Star Trek and Star Wars. Right now we're on Star Trek,
Hey,
and
who
we're doing
founded
this.
that?
Who
came to you and was like, I want to
It
do
was
this
me.
Star Trek, Star Wars?
It was me.
I just assume it would be a fan of both Star Trek and Star Wars.
It was me.
Oh.
Yeah,
Wow.
I started it.
What's it like? You did it because you wanted to actually
founded it.
read some Star Wars books for the first
You know
time?
what? That's rude. I've read so many. I've read more Star Wars. Have I read more Star Wars books than you?
I don't know.
I bet it's a horse race. I bet it's real neck and neck.
No, you've read more.
I have.
Yeah.
I can finish the show by myself. No, you're not bringing anything to the table. Get out of here. Anyway, yeah. So, no, I bought a box of Star Trek books, and there's a bunch of duplicates, and I was like, well, this is perfect for a book club.
You bought them, right?
Yeah, I did. So that's how it's been going, basically.
Did you thank the person on the podcast personally for that recent donation to the library?
I have not.
Goodness.
I've been remiss in that. Yes, we were gifted a giant box of Star Trek books to the David A. Howe Public Library, including some by past guests of the show, a couple by David Dvorkin, a couple by Joe Haldeman, one by Joe Haldeman's brother. I didn't realize he had a brother who was writing. No, I can't remember what it is. But anyway, yeah, past guests, David Dvorkin, Joe Haldeman. You can go back and find their interviews on soundcloud.com/allthebooks. But a huge cache of Star Trek books. So
overflowing.
We're adding quite a few of them to the collections, the ones we didn't have. We're going to do some Star Trek raffles, probably when the new Picard series drops in January. So, yeah, it was pretty exciting to do that. But anyway, currently reading Starship Trap by Mel Gilden, and that's serving two purposes because it's part of my book club, and we're interviewing Mel Gilden on the show.
Goodness.
Yeah, down the road. We're gonna. He wrote.
You just spring this on me on air.
I told you that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you don't listen.
Yeah. Not off air.
Anyway, he has a lot of junior and young adult books, which we have in the collection. He also wrote both Star Trek and Beverly Hills 90210 books. So it's like he's basically my spirit animal.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's it for me. I watched some things, but let's get to that after you've done your books. What have you been reading, big guy?
I finished Dragonfell.
Yes.
By Sarah Prineas.
I know her. Yeah, we spoke.
Liked it. Yeah. Probably would easily recommend it to some kids looking for some fantasy.
Yeah. It's a good. It's
I
a
never
good
read
entry point.
Aragon.
I didn't read it. I watched the movie and I hated it so very much.
The movie's supposed to be real bad.
Again, I'm not a big fantasy reader.
A what?
I don't read a lot of fantasy novels.
Oh, that's right.
I think I've read The Hobbit. I mean, I know I've read The Hobbit and the first two Wheel of Times and Dragonfell is probably seriously, it's probably the extent of it.
That's crazy.
Sorry.
Okay.
You got some. I've always wanted to read Eye of the Dragon, Stephen King one.
Oh,
but you don't think.
Well, you read The Gunslinger. Did you like that?
God, no, I hate The Gunslinger.
Okay.
All right. You said Dragonfell, and I know you read some comics.
I did read some comics. I read Batman Going Sane.
Oh yeah.
Where Joker goes sane.
He goes sane. Yep. Gives it a shot.
It's 4 issues.
Yep.
I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it too.
So
I liked it too.
It does certain things that are different than
White Knight.
Batman White Knight, where Joker also kind of goes sane. But in White Knight, it's his own accord.
Right.
He's going sane because he knows that's the only way to beat Batman.
Right.
Whereas in this, he goes sane because he thinks he beat Batman.
Right.
But there's still some.
There are some similarities, though. I'd be interested to know is it Sean Murphy who wrote the new one?
Yeah.
I would be interested to know his history with going sane because thematically it's very. Yeah. It seems to borrow some things.
Yeah. Boy, I read the Guardians of the Galaxy All New X-Men Trial of Jean Grey
I've read
crossover.
that.
I read it because I also read the Cyclops book.
Yeah.
And I had to do that.
I like those Cyclops
to get to the
books.
Cyclops book.
Yeah.
The Trial of Jean Grey, I don't know. I mean, I'm past the Bendis X-Men stuff, so this was like going back to something I thought was done
right
for me, and I was just like, oh boy,
didn't like it.
No, I don't get the point.
Okay.
The Shi'ar are accusing Jean Grey of a crime that her other self committed because this is Jean Grey from the 60s and the present.
Right. It's a lot. It's convoluted.
It's just not great. I just never want to read another Bendis on the X-Men book as long as I live.
Brian Michael Bendis, comic book author Brian Michael Bendis, currently writing Legion of Superheroes for DC.
Good luck.
And some Superman. So
yeah, Superman seems to be getting like good reviews.
I could take it or leave it. I didn't think it was groundbreaking or anything.
Yeah. The more characters he has to write, I didn't like his Avengers. Just thinking about them makes me tired.
Yeah.
They're just, I don't know. It's just he was such like a workhorse in the later years he was working at Marvel that you just feel like he's not. There's no. What am I trying to say? He's lazy. They come across as lazy. They come across as just like, I don't know. What if the Thing went to the park and a bird hit him?
I want to be there the day that you and Brian Michael Bendis get stuck in an elevator together for 6 hours, so you can just work all this rage out.
He'll turn it into a 5-issue comic series, and it's all word balloons.
Probably.
The artists just copy and paste the one shot of us in the elevator.
Wow.
80 word balloons
he's in
every
rare
panel.
form today, ladies and gentlemen.
Boy, I am tired.
I can see it.
Picture
your dark eyes.
Picture the scene.
Okay.
Of a young,
that's fun exercise.
Handsome, slightly graying around the beard.
Sure.
young Eric
Oh.
sleeping
Okay.
soundly.
Okay.
Maybe he's dreaming about the X-Men.
Graying around the beard.
Yeah,
Wow.
I get some white coming in the
How's
beard a little
your
bit.
chest hair doing? Is it
Okay.
all right? I was curious.
He's sleeping soundly, which
Okay.
is great because he doesn't sleep soundly.
So
He's
is
a
this-
light sleeper.
This is a word picture. It's like I'm there.
All of a sudden, his phone alarm goes off. He
Yeah.
goes to grab his phone to turn the alarm off. What is the alarm still going off? It's not his phone. It's his wife's phone.
Oh boy.
Wait, she's not in the bed. She's in the shower. Where's her phone? He's so tired now. He rolls over, spills her water on her nightstand onto the floor, tries to turn on the light, knocks the lamp over onto
Wow.
the pile of mail.
Comedy of errors.
Once the light is turned on and he picks up the lamp, he's trying to crawl to find the phone, almost falls off the bed into the laundry rack, which is a wooden laundry rack and would collapse if it made contact. Finally, he's able to sluggishly lumber over to the nightstand where her dresser, find the phone and turn it off. He then gets back in bed, ready to fall back asleep. Oh no, she had one to go off 15 minutes after that.
Oh my gosh.
He finally turns it off, gets back in bed, only to be able to stay awake as she comes back in and gets ready for work. He never falls asleep again.
Eric's single now, everyone. Just kidding. I want to say, first of all, you're a gifted storyteller because it was like when that water spilled, I was pins and needles over here. I bit clean through my fingernails over here. Anyway.
Yeah.
I watched a couple things I want to mention. Eric and I watched Batman Ninja, which we've been putting off for quite a while. But we watched Batman Ninja, and I thought it was actually kind of fun. I wouldn't go so far as to say it was like well done or a well-crafted story, but it was very entertaining. I was pretty interested the whole time. What about you?
I liked it.
You did?
Yeah, I had a good time.
Well, you seemed critical of it.
Did
during
I?
the time, yeah.
When?
I don't know. I just
Pick one part I was critical of. No, there were some funny things about it, some weird choices, but for the most part, I did like it. I like the animation.
Yeah, I agree.
I like that it felt like, I don't know, kind of a stereotypical action anime samurai picture that you might be thinking, but with Batman.
Right.
It's knowing in what it does.
Agreed.
But there's just a lot of fun stuff in there. I mean, there's way more monkeys than you would expect.
Exponentially more monkeys.
But they're pretty fun. I mean, at one point, they don't even explain it away, but I think it's Red Robin is just like, oh, yeah, it's a long story, but Robin has a monkey he can talk to.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And
So.
they play a magic flute and control monkeys. So, as you do.
Yeah.
As you do. In other Batman news, I watched the premiere of the CW's Batwoman. And I got to say, I really loved it. I thought it was
really loved it.
I did. I thought it was really well done. You go into it in a really intriguing way where it just kind of sets you right up with intrigue and being invested in what's going on. Ruby Rose as Kate Kane / Batwoman.
Ruby Rose itself sounds like a comic book name.
It does. You're right. But I thought she was excellent. I thought she really kind of elevated that character and made it all work. A decent amount of Batman, which is pretty cool.
There's Batman in this?
Well, I mean, it's one of those, like, they're not sitting down being like, hello, I'm Batman. But it's like you see Batman in action.
What?
More than I would have expected.
I gotta watch this Batwoman pilot.
I know. It was really good. Yeah. You can
I
stream
watched 5 seasons of Gotham for 5 minutes of Batman action.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that it was really well done. It's definitely one I'm going to follow. I'm not caught up on the other shows, so I didn't see the crossover last time that Batwoman has appeared in, but this is just a pilot by itself. You don't need to see anything else. You could just jump right in and watch this. So check it out.
Would you say Batman is in it as much as, like, Superman is in Supergirl? Or less
no,
so? Okay.
Less so. No, I mean, he doesn't have, like, dialogue or something.
Right.
It's just you.
And he's just a straight-up serial killer in Titans?
In Titans. In Titans, yeah, a little bit. But anyway, that was really good. If you're not familiar with the character, this is taking a lot of cues from a hardcover collection called Batwoman Elegy.
Allergy?
Elegy. Elegy. When you're allergic to dogs. Just... Batwoman Elegy, which is decent. It's very trippy. I think it would probably spoil things about the show. So I wouldn't say, like, run right out and read Batwoman Elegy if you're interested in the show.
Right.
Probably someday go ahead. I think really Detective Comics Volume 1, which we have in the collection here, Rise of the Batman, you have Batwoman and Batman interacting with the whole team. I think that's a really good intro to the character, and it would be something that you could read to get a little context without spoiling anything.
Right.
So,
or
if you like the show and are interested in more, I would recommend that volume.
Movie-wise, the animated film Batman Bad Blood has her in it.
Yes, it does. Yep.
So.
Yeah, but I do think Elegy would probably tell you a little bit more than you want to know.
But I do think Batman Bad Blood would be an easier night.
than
I thought we were just like competing.
going back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I liked it. I liked it. I like how invested you were.
Smart people would watch Batman Bad Blood.
Okay. Go. Our producer's telling us to move along. Okay. All right.
I like Ruby Rose and John Wick 2.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen any of the John Wick
She was in
films,
Resident
but-
Evil, the final chapter.
Okay.
I almost just called it Resident Evil, the last one.
Okay.
But you also could.
I mean, while we're off the rails, can I just say that it's the birthday of two of my oldest friends.
You may
they
not.
They share a birthday, so happy birthday to Rochelle, friend since kindergarten. Happy birthday to Steve, who was just on our concert episode. He and I went to see the Rolling Stones together, so you can go back and revisit our summer of concerts with Steve and I reviewing the Rolling Stones. Happy birthday to Rochelle and Steve.
Happy birthday.
On to book news.
That's where we are now, yeah.
Let's do it.
All right.
What do you got? New York Times bestseller.
New York Times bestsellers list.
Hit
All
me.
right. Laura Prescott is here again. She's been here 4 weeks, but it hasn't been in the top 10 for all of those 4
Now
weeks.
she's moving on up.
The secrets we kept. Kept? The secrets we kept.
Guess it depends on how many E's are in there, but I would probably say
One
kept.
E. The
Kept.
secrets we kept.
Yeah.
By Laura Prescott during the Cold War.
Okay.
Sweater weather.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, you want it? Yeah.
Members of the CIA
Layers.
typing pool and its mission to smuggle the banned book Dr.
Oh, sure.
Zhivago
Yeah, I remember.
behind the
Yeah,
Iron
yeah, yeah.
Curtain.
How can I forget? It's such a goofy premise.
Wow.
Not to say it won't work, but when you just see that on paper, it's like,
Right.
well, that's strange. You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's next?
Number 9.
I know what number is next.
I
I
was
was
just
saying
trying to-
what book is next.
Just trying to buy you some time. You're
Number
half
9,
asleep. So.
The Oracle by Jonathan Kahn. A traveler discovers mysteries hidden behind 7 locked doors.
Oh, he should ask the Oracle.
Yeah.
What's behind him?
Yeah. One of the doors can tell the truth. The other door can only reference things as the Grateful Dead songs.
Really?
Yeah.
So
I don't know any Grateful
it's
Dead
an
songs.
odd
with this
choice.
bit.
That
Yeah.
was. You got to know that information before you go in. Number 8.
Number 8. Killer Instinct by James Patterson and Howard Rogan. Maybe you should read this.
Is this a YA sci-fi
I
novel?
don't think so. Let's
Okay.
see. The second book in the Instinct series, when an act of terror strikes New York, Dr. Reinhardt and Detective Needham go after a sociopath. No, it doesn't seem like
That seems a little more James Patterson.
Kids aren't really into doctors.
I didn't realize
as
he had a
main
new.
characters.
I didn't realize he had a new series.
The Instinct series.
Why don't you let kids speak for themselves?
That's true. We need more doctor protagonists.
I remember I hear kids saying that all
Yeah.
the time. I'm like,
A doctor protagonist.
take a break. You know.
Yeah.
What about Doc McStuffins?
Oh, yeah, kids like that.
Yeah, she's a doctor.
Kind of.
Well, her mom's a real doctor. She's a toy doctor.
She's a toy doctor.
Yeah.
For her toys.
For her toys.
So all the things that are hurting her toys, she probably caused.
That's a fair point.
So
That's a fair point.
she's all business is good,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
also a little bad.
She's like that mom from The Sixth Sense.
Yikes.
No?
Dark.
Sorry.
That's Blake Lively.
Is it?
Not the mom, but the daughter.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Wait. Yes.
That sure feels wrong. But
No, it's right. Here,
Go
you
ahead.
fact check
I'm
that.
going to,
While I talk
yeah.
about number 7 being The Girl Who Lived Twice by David LaCrance.
I don't think you're allowed to do that.
Live twice?
I was told you only live once.
No, you only live twice.
Really?
Yeah, once for yourself and one for your dreams.
I remember that now.
Yeah.
You're right. That's a very racist James Bond movie.
The Nancy Sinatra film?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's the song.
technically-
That's the
it's a
song. That movie, though, that does not age
Yeah.
well, I got to say.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. What is this book about? Mikkel. Oh, nope. I forget it.
Boy. Dead man walking over here.
Number 6. Brand new. New this week. New to us, new to you, the listeners.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess I said us. Did you find Blake Lively? And
I'm still looking for it.
she's the
sorry.
girl
I'm-
that
well-
throws up in the tent.
Okay, I believe you.
He hides in the tent because he sees a ghost.
I know
and
what
she
you're
shows up
talking
and throws
about.
up.
I know what you're talking
He
about.
listens, and then he plays the tape at
Yeah.
the funeral. And the
Yeah.
dad's like,
Boy,
"You
oh
were
boy.
keeping her sick. It's your fault." And the wife doesn't say anything. But then Bruce Willis and the kid leave, and then the movie becomes The Kid with Bruce Willis, where he's hanging out with his younger self.
Why are you explaining this? It's too much.
Number 6, new
Too
this
much
week.
by a long shot.
Did you find it?
No, I'm
How
so-
hard is it to look
I-
up IMDb?
I just keep looking it up and I'm not seeing Blake Lively, so I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Okay. Check this out. IMDb.
No. You keep going.
6 cents.
You keep going.
I got this.
Ugh.
This is going to be embarrassing for you. Somebody's going to turn to himself in the mirror and go, "What are you doing?"
I'm wondering why you're not just going on.
Hold
and letting
on.
me do this.
Hold
Okay.
on. We can't go anywhere now. We're in this. No,
You-
listeners
you
can deal.
You can mark this so that we'll
Oh.
cut it.
Oh, you know what?
Blake Lively's not in The Sixth Sense?
It was Misha Barton.
Okay.
Misha Barton from
The OC. Yeah.
And Dancing with the Stars for a
I
few
just want to
episodes.
point out that I said that sounds wrong as soon as you said it.
Well, Blake Lively was in something.
Many things. The Green Lantern movie.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's what I meant.
Sisterhood of
Boy,
the Traveling Pants.
I
How about that?
see. Box office bomb. They could have used that. Where's that Sixth Sense?
You need to take a nap. Number 7, are we on?
No, number 6.
Okay.
The Dutch House by Anne Pratchett. A sibling relationship
Patchett.
isn't what?
Patchett. You said Pratchett, like Terry Pratchett.
Patch what?
But it's just Anne Patchett.
That's funny. Next time we're
No,
playing
it's
Sea of
not.
Thieves and the boat is sinking, I'll tell you to Anne patch it up.
I guess that'd be funny.
Yeah, in the moment. A sibling relationship is impacted when the family goes from poverty to wealth and back again over the course of many decades.
Wow, it's like a tennis match.
Back again. Yeah, that's
rough.
That's like Raging Bull. You
Oh.
seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
With Robert De Niro?
Spoiler alert. Now I know, but let's check it out.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of happens with Rocky, too. Not Rocky 2, the film, but Rocky as well. The film.
Rocky as well.
Rocky as well.
The Duchess.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. Number 5. Let's do this. Where the Crawdad Sings by Delia Owens.
Hey,
Number 5.
I read it.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Number 4. Vince Flynn, Lethal Agent by Kyle Mills.
Not a fan of this series.
Hmm.
The Mitch Rapp. I don't like it.
It is Mitch Rapp.
Yeah.
Mexican cartels, ISIS, and a possible pandemic bring Mitch Rapp back into action. Why'd he leave?
Do you remember that? I don't know. Do you remember the Michael Keaton, Dylan O'Brien movie that
Nobody saw?
yeah, tried to make happen?
American
and it just wasn't
Assassin?
It was not going anywhere.
Number 3, The Testaments by Margaret Atwood in the sequel to
yes.
Handmaid's Tale. Old Seekers
Yes.
bring 3 women together as the Republic of Gilead's theocratic regime shows signs of decay.
Fans demanded a sequel. What are you gonna do?
Well, you're gonna be stay at number 3
I guess
behind
so.
Stephen King's The Institute by Stephen King. I said Stephen King's The Institute by Stephen King.
Yes.
That's
This is our Stephen King pick of the year.
Oh yeah,
Just you and me.
you and me.
We went through them last time. I don't remember what they all were, but
There's this one now.
yeah. This is
Children
the-
with
this is what we're
special
doing.
talents are abducted and sequestered in an institution where the sinister staff seeks to extract their gifts through harsh methods. This is the X-Men. This is Mr.
It does sound
Sinister.
a lot-
Ha 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 ha.
It does
Genetics.
sound a lot like it. Yeah.
That's careful of that skin rash, Scott. What skin rash? Never mind.
Its humor's not landing.
Oh,
Sorry.
that was very ominous, Master. Thank you, Amphibious.
Okay.
Mutate of the Savage Lands.
You have a whole X-Men podcast for this gold. Great.
Number 1, The Water Dancer is at number 1. It's also new this week.
Who is this by?
Ta.
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Thank you, Ta-Nehisi
okay.
Coates.
I think this is actually his first work of fiction, though he's written Black Panther. He wrote Black
Yeah.
Panther.
A young man who is gifted with a mysterious power becomes
Woo.
part of a war between slavers and the enslaved,
Yikes.
while also fighting Mr. Sinister
I don't think so.
from the X-Men.
That's a weird place after the slavery plot.
Why don't you take over the podcast for the next
Oh,
however
now?
long?
Now you think? Well, as we mentioned at the top of the show, a few episodes back, episode 211 to be precise, soundcloud.com/allthebooks, episode 211,
Boy,
we were talking about some...
you being paid by Big All the Book Show?
That's us. That's us. We were talking about some new books in our collection. Actually, that was an all junior young adult spotlight. I didn't have any that time. That was all
Oh,
you,
yeah.
big guy.
Yeah.
And
You were not kind to the
wasn't?
young adult books I
I
brought
didn't
up.
like many of them. That's
No.
true. Dragonfell.
Was it what? Call It a Doomsday? Destroy All Monsters?
Yeah.
And something else.
Yeah.
And then I also
no,
brought Dragonfell.
I wasn't really liking
Yeah.
the zone on those. And this one, I was all geared up. I
Mhm.
Prejudged because I was like, fantasy. I don't think
Yeah.
I would really care for that. I thought, well, I don't think that's for me. But then you read the first chapter or so, and I really was like, well, I want to know what happened.
Mhm.
And so we committed on air to read this book, come hell or high water, and we both did. We both enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Reached out to the author, Sarah Prineas, asked if she'd sit down and talk with us a little bit about Dragonfell and some of her other works, Magic Thief and all that. She quickly agreed. We set it up, and here we go.
All the Books presents Author Spotlight.
Sarah, thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Just to give you a little context, we do a rotating segment on the show where we pick some books from our collection, new books that are in the collection here that we're excited about. I usually pick adult books, and Eric, who's a teen librarian, we'll pick YA and junior books. And he happened to pick Dragonfell. And so we just kind of take a look at it. We read a little bit of the segment, and we were both really, really interested in it. So we decided that we're going to sit down and read the book to discuss it. And that's when we reached out to you to see if you'd take some time to talk with us. So that's kind of how we got here. And again, we appreciate you taking the time to talk. So let's just start right from the beginning. So Magic Thief was your first book, right? Which came out in 2008?
Yep. It's been about 10 years. I'm 10 years into my writing career.
Oh, well, that's a nice milestone. And how did that come about? Because you were working in higher education prior to that, is that right?
I was the director of scholarships at the University of Iowa Honors Program, and I was kind of writing on the side. I also had 2 small children, and my husband was getting tenure, and so it was this really busy time in my life, and I would find these little moments to write. I had written a dud book that took 4 years to write. And then I started writing The Magic Thief, and it just I squeezed time out everywhere that I could find it to write this book. It just gripped my imagination. There are 3 more books in that series because the character was just so much fun to write and really, really good at getting into trouble, which is what you want your main characters to do, if at all possible.
Sure. So prior to that, I mean, had you entertained any ideas about being a full-time writer? Was that something that was okay?
No, not at all. And it's great that you guys are doing this kind of thing, because I remember when I was a kid, I never got, there were no school visits. I never saw an author or heard from one. And so it didn't even occur to me that real actual people wrote the books that I love. So it's really great that kids have programs like this, or school visits, or librarians who are willing to reach out and get authors to talk about what they do. Yeah,
well, I mean, we always enjoy it. As library professionals, we enjoy it. But to speak to what you're saying, I think it is really important to sort of demystify that and to show that this is something that, kids, teens, adults who are interested in doing this, that it is possible. So yeah, I think it's a great way to connect our readers to authors like you who are favorites.
So my first question for you is, I'm interested in what fantasy books you were a fan of as a kid, and maybe which ones inspired you to write. Because when I was a kid, I don't remember a lot of books like Dragonfell. I don't remember the fantasy genre being a big one for kids lit, at least, until Harry Potter came out and everything. A lot of stuff was more sci-fi or Goosebumps related when I was a kid. A lot of mystery.
Well, I'm probably even older than you are. And when I was a kid, for sure, there was very little to choose from in terms of fantasy. Right. And I really didn't start reading fantasy until I was in college. That's when I started reading adult fantasy books. And that's when I read The Lord of the Rings, which was, just a mind blower. But when I was a kid, I remember I read, this is an oldie, but it's T.H. White's The Once and Future King. And the first part of that is the Sword in the Stone story.
Right.
That 5 times fast. Sword in the Stone story. Which is the young King Arthur story. And that one, so one of the things you see in a lot of my books is characters who can change into animals or into other creatures. But that comes from the Sword in the Stone, because young King Arthur, when he was a boy, is changed into all these different animals by Merlin, so that he can learn about different parts of being a good king. So that was a really formative book when I was little. But other than that, A Wrinkle in Time was another one that was huge. But as you say, that's sort of more science fiction-y than fantasy. And the other books that were really important to me, and I think that they are relevant for a fantasy writer, weirdly, are the Little House on the Prairie books by Laura Ingalls Wilder, because she was so amazingly good at setting a scene.
Sure.
My theory is because she spent so much of her life describing things to Mary, to her sister who was blind,
right, yeah,
that she became really good at evoking what the real essential. And that, I learned a lot as a writer from reading Laura and trying to build a fantasy world for the reader, because they have to really do a big act of the imagination to get into that world.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying with that, because in historical fiction, it is so important to really lay out exactly what the experience of that character was going to be like, so that there is an obvious comparison there with fantasy, which it never occurred to me before. So, let's talk about Dragonfell. For those
Sure.
who haven't read it, could you give just a quick synopsis of what we're talking about?
Sure. It's funny to be talking about this book because I know it only came out this year, but of course I finished writing it like 2 years ago. See if I can remember. It's gone, I've written something else since then. In Dragonfell, it's set in a kind of world where factories and technology is starting to advance, and magical things are being squeezed out of this world because the landscape is changing. For example, if coal mines, your beautiful mountains are kind of maybe not there anymore. And your skies are maybe getting more polluted from factories and so on. That's the setting of the world, a world that's changing. And Rafi is a kid who lives in this remote sheep farming village and hasn't really been touched by those changes yet, but they're coming. They're coming to his village. And when change happens, a lot of times people get scared. And they're likely to lash out at anybody who's different. And Rafi is different. He looks different than everyone else in his village. And he has flamingly bright hair, and his eyes are very dark, almost like they have shadows in them, and a spark deep, deep in his eyes. And because he's different, and because things are changing, he's cast out of his village. And so he has to go out into the world, and the kind of mission that he has, because of some of the stuff that goes down, is that he has to find the dragons that are left in the world. Now, people think they're gone because they haven't been seen in a long time.
Right.
And he's joined in this quest by a girl named Maud, who is, or she calls herself, a dragon scientist.
Right.
So she's both questing for dragons for different reasons, and adventures arise from that situation.
You kind of mentioned this, but at the very end of the book, there's a line that Maud says where she says, just because he's different doesn't mean he's dangerous. And
yes.
I kind of took that as the general thesis of the book.
It is. In fact,
okay.
when I sign books, that's the line that I write down.
Okay, great.
Different
So
doesn't mean dangerous.
So how important was that message to you then to convey that in Dragonfell?
Hugely important. I think, in our current historical moment, there's a lot of fear of people that are different. And I really think that tolerance and openness and being welcoming and making people feel like they belong is really, really important right now.
Right.
That was very much an intentional move on my part, and the kind of main, I don't think that books need to be like messagey,
right.
But that was one of the main things I wanted to say in this book is that people may be different from you, but that doesn't mean you should be afraid of them.
Well, you also mentioned in your synopsis there that this idea that there's this sort of a war going on between, emerging technologies with the factories coming in and all that. It's kind of pushing out the old ways, it kind of, I don't know, sort of minimizing the individual ingenuity and with Flitch trying to sort of shift things.
Yeah.
And I just wondered, was that a message that you particularly wanted? I know you said you don't want messages, but I mean, was that a theme that you were trying to explore? Was that something that you wanted to talk about?
A little bit. Like, I don't want to be thinking that like technological advances are bad, because I think many of them are good. I would say almost all of them are good. We're talking right now. We have really
yes.
technological advance, right? But I think it's really important to be mindful of the effects of the choices we make in terms of technology. So if you have a factory that's turning out, in the case of the story, like cloth, that's kind of cheap and you're just going to wear it, makes a shirt that you're only going to wear for a year and then throw away. That's not very good for our world.
Right.
Like if we have disposable product. Whereas if you have things that are made with care by artisans or people who are intentional about what they're doing, you might think, oh, that's more expensive and that's going to cost more. But in the long term, actually, it really doesn't. Like if you're throwing away your shirt every year, versus keeping a shirt that was made by somebody who really labored over it and cared about it, that ends up in the long run being less expensive and also less of a burden on our planet. Right. So yeah, that like, I think what I'm trying to say here is that balance is important.
Absolutely.
Having you just mention that Lord of the Rings was such an impact, I mean, that was a very big theme in his books as well, over, you know, the negative effects of industrializing everything. So I'm not too surprised to find it found its way into your writing too then.
Yeah, that's very true.
Because you have written young adult books, but you have written a lot of juvenile, younger books in the fantasy genre for both. Is there a special challenge to writing fantasy for kids, for the younger audience? Are there special challenges to world building?
I think kids are really super fun to write for, because when we're adults, we tend to we're less flexible in what we can take in. We're not as programmed to learn as kids are. So we're like, we open a book and we think, okay, it has to be this certain kind of book, or we don't know what to do with it. Whereas kids, I think, have reading protocols where they're like, bring it, just whatever you got, just give it to me and I will read it and I will not judge. I will just take it in and love it. So I feel like kids are really open readers to like whatever's coming along, and you can throw dragons at them and magic and stuff, and they're like really ready to take that on. So I would say, like, in some ways, adults, I'm a kids writer. I would say adults are harder to write for.
Sure. Does that ease continue on to the young adult genre, or does it start to get a little bit more difficult as they get older?
Right. For me, writing young adult was hard. And I had to do a lot more revision work with my editor on the young adult books. It just wasn't as natural a fit.
Okay.
But I will also say that the readers of those, I've written 2 young adult books, Ash and Bramble and Rose and Thorn. And it turns out the readers of those books are actually middle school students. They're not high school students. The mail I get from readers is from kids who are 13, 12, 13, 14. I mean, that's where those books hit. That's the sweet spot. So really, they're kind of sort of YA, but not really.
Well, it's still important to have younger written books in the YA section, so they have a jumping on point.
Absolutely. I mean, I work as a bookseller 2 afternoons a week, and there's we have a book selling category that we need to fill, and that's I really think for readers who are not quite ready for the heavy content of YA, but are ready to move on from middle grade.
Right.
And we just do not have enough books in that.
I have to ask, because I was looking at the author description on the back of your book.
Sure.
Your own goats, were they the inspiration?
Oh, they definitely were the inspiration. Yes. I don't have goats anymore.
Okay.
But when I was writing Dragonfell, I had goats. And 2 of the goats that are in Raffi's goat horde are goats that were my goats.
Okay.
Yeah. Poppy was my little fat goat, and that's the goat that goes with Raffi on his journey. So goats are awesome. I want to put goats in all my books now.
That sounds like a fun challenge. Try to find a way to work a goat into every book going forward.
My next book is science fiction set on a spaceship, so I don't think there's going to be any goat.
Oh, okay. Well, that leads perfectly into my next question, which was, I wonder if you could give us a little preview of what to expect next.
Yeah. So my next book I wrote. I don't know if you know how this works, but we have an agent who does our business for us. Our authors have an agent, and I fired my agent, and I got a new agent. So I wrote a new book in order to get a new agent. I wanted to do something really different.
Okay.
So it's still middle grade. And it still has a character who changes shapes because he's a shapeshifter. It's called Trouble in the Stars, and it's about a kid who's a shapeshifter, which I think is not that much of a stretch, because I feel like every 12-year-old on this planet is a shapeshifter. Like kids are shapeshifters, right, as they grow and change. So, but he doesn't actually have gender except when he's in the human shape. So I'm going to refer to him as he, but mostly he's they.
Okay.
So he takes on a human shape and goes on a spaceship with some humans and other life forms. And I don't want to talk too much about it, but it just sold to a new publisher, so I'm really excited.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so that's what I've got coming up next, and it's not coming out until 2021. So
2021. Oh, okay. So we've got some time.
The lead time is really long in publishing.
Okay.
So,
And the title again was
Trouble in the Stars.
Trouble in the Stars from 2021.
The character's name is Trouble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks again for talking to us this morning. We both really enjoyed the book, and maybe we'll have to have you back in 2021 when Trouble in the Stars comes out.
Right. Oh, I would love to talk to you about that book.
All right. Well, thanks so much.
All right. Thanks a lot.
That was a great interview.
Yeah, it was. I liked her point about how the interviews and talking to authors makes it a little bit more. Becoming an author makes it a little bit more accessible, I guess, to people out there who have that interest. Because I think you do. I think you do sort of. I don't know. You take that, and there's such a disconnect between like somebody picking up a book and the person who's written it that they almost feel like like mythical, So when you can break down that wall and just have a conversation, I think it makes it feel like a lot more attainable. The goal of being a writer. So anyway, we really appreciated Sarah taking the time to talking about us. The book that we're covering right now, Dragonfell, is available in our collection, or really any the libraries in the Southern Tier Library, or your own home library. So I encourage you to check that out. Her first book was The Magic Thief, and then she also mentioned some of her YA titles as well. We have a great assortment here in the library and through our collection across the 5-county system. Mm-hmm. And the new book is coming out 2021, she said. So a little bit of time on that, but keep an eye out for that as well, Trouble in the Stars. Okay.
Fantasy always feels a bit warmer and cozier to me when I'm reading it. Even if it's like a barren wasteland, whenever I think of the fantasy books I've read, because at this point I've read a lot more than I ever thought I would, because it connects to fairy tales we were listening to as kids and everything, but it feels like you can just wrap yourself in a blanket and read a fantasy novel easier than like, whereas a sci-fi novel, it tends not to be. I feel like sci-fi can be a lot more cynical.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I think, and again, I'm such a fantasy novice that you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that most of the time what moves the story, what needs to happen in a fantasy is a lot more like based on relationships and like the physical act of like doing things. You know what I mean? Like they have to like work together, and there's so much is said about, like in this book in particular, you had the father and the son. A lot of it was all about like how these relationships interact, the need their community has, our main character going out to sort of meet that need. It just feels a little bit more personal than sci-fi tends to be, I think, because of like technology and the distance that brings and stuff. So there is, I think that is a main difference there, which reflects in how the stories are kind of forced to move forward. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Again, thanks to our guest Sarah Prineas for talking to us, and again, check out her books. Let's talk library news. What do we have coming up?
What do we have coming up?
Well, the book club.
It's almost Halloween.
It is almost Halloween, and the book club is currently reading World War Z by Max Brooks.
Yeah,
we're going to be discussing that on Halloween. So hopefully Eric finds his Halloween spirit before then.
I'll find it.
There's a play coming up in the library that is, October 26th at 7 o'clock, October 27th at 2 o'clock.
Ooh.
You can come check out that Murder Mystery. We're looking forward to doing that.
Murder They Acted.
Sponsored by the Friends of the Library, so thanks to the Friends.
Teen night. Every Wednesday, 5:30 to 7:30. Come hang out at the library if you're a teen.
All right.
It's pretty fun.
All right.
We watched Penguin Highway. It's a new anime film. I thought it was pretty good.
Okay. Last year, in the auditorium, we had a band called Hungry Town, which was October 30th, and people thought it was like a zombie band, but it wasn't.
Oh.
But this year, we do have Chris Johnson coming back and doing a fun, spooky presentation called New York Ghosts.
Ooh.
So you can come and check that out on Wednesday, the 16th at 7 o'clock. That's going to be in the exhibition room. And the very next night, we have Nate and Kate in concert down in the auditorium.
Fun.
7 o'clock on Thursday, October 17th. Then the concert or the plays at the end of the month.
You should try to
World War Z on Halloween.
You should try to get the band The Zombies to come to the library.
I think
during
they're pretty
Halloween.
pricey.
You think so?
Pretty pricey, I think.
For their one song?
Even so, I think probably, yeah.
Just have them sing everything but that one song.
Oh, yeah.
All the leaves are brown.
That's Mamas and the Papas. So they could cover Mamas and the Papas, maybe.
That would help.
Yeah.
The
Zombies doing.
If it's a cover, we don't have to pay royalty fees.
Oh, I think you still do. But
they do.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in.
Who's your daddy?
We've got some fun interviews coming up. I'm going to make Eric get some sleep, and we'll see you next time.